Good afternoon. This is Donna Donovan of the Appalachian Pagan Ministry, and I wanted to take some time today to explain to you basically why it is we do what we do with this ministry and throw some statistics at you. And I'm going to do this by audio and then put it to a video of lovely pictures because I don't think anybody really wants to sit and look at my face the whole time I speak. Today, there are 2.3 million people in our nation's prisons and jails. That is a 500% increase over the last 40 years. Basically, 1 in every 100 American adults are behind bars, and our incarceration rate is the world's highest. The American criminal justice system holds, as I said, more than 2.3 million people in 1,719 state prisons, 102 federal prisons, 942 juvenile correctional facilities, 3,283 local jails, and 79 Indian country jails, as well as in military prisons, immigration detention facilities, civil commitment centers, and prisons in the United States territories. The visuals I'm going to show are some pie graphs and charts, and while this major first pie chart will provide a comprehensive snapshot of our correctional system, the graphic does not capture the enormous churn in and out of our correctional facilities and the far larger universe of people whose lives are affected by the criminal justice system. Every year, 636,000 or more people walk out of prison gates, but people go to jail in our country over 11 million times each year. Once we have wrapped our minds around the whole pie of mass incarceration, we should zoom out and note that being locked up is just one piece of the larger pie of correctional control. There are another 820,000 people on parole, a type of conditional release from prison, and a staggering 3.8 million people on probation, which is typically an alternative sentence. We already know that the United States is truly exceptional when it comes to incarceration. As has been reported previously, the United States incarcerates on the average 704 to 716 or so people for every 100,000 residents, more than any other country worldwide. And within the U.S., the vast majority of those incarcerated are men. And as a result, the women's incarceration rates are overshadowed and lost in the data. Only 5% of the world's female population live in the United States, but the U.S. accounts for nearly 30% of the world's incarcerated women. Pretty shocking. Overall, with the exception of Thailand and the U.S. itself, the top 44 jurisdictions throughout the world with the highest rate of incarcerating women are individual American states. West Virginia is actually the highest. We have the highest rate of female incarceration rate per capita in the world, imprisoning twice the rate of Thailand and more than 6 times the rate of United Arab Emirates. That is amazing to me. A study done by the Prison Policy Initiative that compared the United States with other countries also found that West Virginia would rank 10th in the world for its incarceration rate. 10th in the world. Let that sink in for a minute. I mean, consider the countries out there. We are 10th in the world in incarcerating individuals in this state alone. So what does that matter to the average person? You know, you're not incarcerated. What does any of this have to do with you at all? Well, let me explain to you how it affects you. Data from June 2015. Now, I'm using West Virginia as an example because that's what I have totals on right now. I can get Ohio later and actually get all the states, but right now, just West Virginia as an example. Data from June 2015 show that the inmate population in West Virginia was 6,965. 95% of people who are incarcerated will be released. So 95% of that is 6,617 released inmates. Nationally, we release close to about 700,000 people a year. In 2014, the population of West Virginia was 1.85 million. So if you have 6,617 released inmates, that is 3.6% of the population. That means for every 10 people you know, on the average, 4 of them are going to be convicts. So I want to ask yourself again, how does this affect me? Well, let's talk recidivism. The average rate of recidivism, and recidivism is those that reoffend within 3 years, in West Virginia is 32.9%, which is actually one of the lowest recidivism rates compared nationally. Nationally, recidivism rates are about 45.5%, so about half of inmates released will reoffend. So in West Virginia, with the rate being 32.9%, that means out of those 4 convicts that you know, on the average, at least one, if not two of them, are going to reoffend. So let's go back to how this affects you. You look around you, you look at 10 people, and I mean 10 people you know. It could be your grocer, your pharmacist, just 10 people you know. I don't mean instantly, that you know, you come in contact with daily. Look at 10, pick out 10 people. 4 of them are going to be convicts. They will have been incarcerated at one time or another. And out of those 4, at least one, if not 2 of them, are going to reoffend. So which of those 10 people you know, which 1 or 2 of those 10 people you know are going to come back and carjack you or rob your house or sell your kid drugs? I mean, think about that. That's how it affects you. It does. Let's discuss recidivism and what has been shown to reduce those numbers, because we need to stop people from reoffending. We need to make these numbers drop. We need to make people not reoffend. I mean, our prison system used to be rehabilitative many, many years ago, and then privatized prison systems came on board in the late 80s, early 90s, and everything got privatized, and prison became one of the biggest money-making businesses in this country. And that is when our prison system went from being rehabilitative to punitive. At this point in time, West Virginia is not private. One of the few states have not gone private. In Ohio, half the prisons are privatized, and there you see the greater incarceration rates than you do anywhere else. So how do we stop these folks from reoffending? Each year, more than 600,000, closer to 700,000 citizens return to neighborhoods across America after serving time in federal and state prisons, and another 11.4 million individuals cycle through the jails. When you go to prison or jail, there is a process, and it's called institutionalization, that happens as the psychological result of having to adapt to life in an institution, and it can make returning to society challenging and overwhelming. The process of institutionalization, or prisonization as some call it, includes some or all the following psychological adaptations. When you go to prison, these sort of things tend to happen to you after time. You have dependence on institutional structure or contingencies, which means a lack of decision-making skills. You're not given choices in prison or jail. You are told what to do 24/7. You don't get to pick out which color jeans you want to wear or what you want to have for supper. Everything is done for you. So when you come out of the facility, you have a hard time making basic, simple decisions. And I will not lie, I was one of those. First thing my parents did the day they picked me up at the gate was take me to Walmart. I about lost my mind. Couldn't even choose what pair of jeans to get. It was overwhelming. Hypervigilance, interpersonal distrust, and suspicion. Constant danger and being on guard 24/7. Those of us who have worked in fields like I did in a psych facility, or law enforcement officers, or people, correctional officers in the prison themselves, understand this. When you are constantly watching your back, it wears on a person. And when you have to do that 24/7, I mean, you can't even sleep without having one eye open. And I don't care what facility you're in. If it's jail, if it's prison, you are constantly watching your back. And that is something that does not go away for a very long time. I walked out those doors 7 years ago this week, and I still sit with my back against the wall. I do not like crowds. I do not like being surrounded when I have my back open. That's just a habit that got ingrained in me. And I was only incarcerated 6 months. Can you imagine folks who are in there for years? So that's one thing. Another thing happens. Emotional over-control, alienation, and psychological distancing. That's a safety mechanism. You know, if you don't get attached to things, if you make yourself shut down and not care about things, then you don't get hurt. That is a mental safety mechanism that builds up and that follows through when they leave. Incorporation of exploitive norms of prison culture, social withdrawal, and isolation. Basically, everyone has a hustle. That is the key phrase you hear anytime you're in jail or prison. Everyone has a hustle, and you do. It's a survival skill and tactic you've got to learn. Either you learn to play cards really, really good, or you learn to sling ink, as they call it, tattoo, or you learn to make the ink so people can tattoo, or you learn how to make hooch and make some alcohol in there, or you get a commissary going. You have people sending you money. You've heard of the prison scams, the guys or girls, finding pen pals who are sending them money and supporting them. And they're stocking up on supplies, and they're selling to other inmates. It's called a hustle. Everyone has a hustle, and that's the mentality they have. So when they get out of prison, they think they have to constantly live like this. It's a hard thing to overcome. Attorney General Loretta E. Lynch had made a quote once that really amazing. When I'm throwing these numbers out to you and these statistics and people, and I post them all the time. But as she stated, sometimes the sheer size of these numbers blunts our sensibilities to what they truly represent. People. Every number is a person. Behind every person is a family, and surrounding every family is a community. These are people who could contribute to our economy, who could support their families, and who could transform their communities into better places to live. If we are truly going to make the most of this precious resource, this human capital, we must ensure that these individuals have the tools and skills and the opportunities they need to return to their communities, not just as residents, but as leaders, equipped not only to survive, but to succeed. We must ensure that our returning brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, our fellow Americans, can truly return home. And that is the point. These should be rehabilitated. They are paying their penance for what they've done. They are incarcerated. That alone is punishment. I am telling you, from one who knows. Once they get out, we want them to come out as better people than they went in. And I will tell you, the inmates that I work with, that was the biggest thing I hear from all of them, is they want to leave prison better than when they came in. They want to grow in body, mind, and spirit. These people have suffered, sometimes more before they got to prison, sometimes more after. And yes, I agree. Many of them put themselves there. They committed a crime. They were dishonorable. They deserve to be there. And I am not saying otherwise. They will tell you the same thing. But they are taking that time, and they want to change those behaviors and change that mindset and grow, as they said, in body, mind, and spirit, and come out better people than when they went in. And it behooves us to help them do that any way we can, because it's going to help us when they come back out. The ministries such as ours and other ones and other volunteer groups that go in and teach GED classes or English classes or whatever, these bring outside community connection, and that's what these people need. It brings humanity back into their lives. It gives them the chance to work on self-awareness and spiritual growth on the path of their choosing. That is why we're there. Research has showed that outside volunteers, especially faith-based people, can be an indispensable catalyst of positive transformation in the attitudes, behaviors, and rates of successful reentry of prisoners. Absolutely, I see it all the time. Faith-based volunteers can multiply the effectiveness of the chaplaincy, and they will tell you that themselves, especially when it comes to those of us who are working outside the mainstream religions. According to the Pew Research Center's Forum on Religion and Public Life a few years ago, pagan, earth-based, Native American, and other non-Abrahamic religions are growing in our prisons nationally at a combined rate of 71%. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's growing fast. And they need the opportunity to learn and to work on growing body, mind, and spirit. This is truly historic. I mean, as of right now, Appalachian Pagan Ministry is the only pagan ministry allowed into West Virginia State prisons. Not saying it's going to stay that way, but we are the first, and right now, currently, we are the only. We are also working in Ohio prisons, and there's a difference between West Virginia and Ohio. In West Virginia, the pagan inmates have been allowed to meet once a week with each other, but they could not have any rituals or religious services or anything of that nature without outside clergy coming in, which didn't happen until we got there. But they could meet once a week. In Ohio, we go to 5 prisons there as well, which including death row. In Ohio, the pagan inmates are not even allowed to meet at all without outside clergy, and then they're only allowed to meet once a month. So if we don't make it there, they don't meet. It's important. It's important that we do this, and this is truly historic. It helps to place pagan religions in a similar position as mainstream religions within this state and in Ohio. And then this, in turn, creates a precedent which may directly influence conditions for pagan inmates and other prison systems in other states, as well as helping to change the perspective of our religions, whichever path they may be, within the eyes of the large governmental body. This is a step forward in reducing the stigma against pagan religions within our society. We're showing that, hey, we're not a bunch of, bloodthirsty, baby sacrificing, orgy having, devil worshippers. That's not the case. And they're seeing that these are legitimate paths. We have Wiccans that meet. We have the Asatru and Odinists. We also meet with the Satanists and Luciferians. They are doing their own course of their own. And it's change. I had an inmate who was a Satanist who, when I met him, was constantly in the hole, constantly on seg, and constantly in trouble because, he was rebelling 24/7. And we talked, and we started doing this course together, and he has not been in the hole since. He has not had a single write-up since because he's starting to be held himself accountable for his behaviors, and he's learning, and he's growing in himself, mind, body, and spirit. It's amazing to me the difference that this ministry has made just within the few short months. The year and a half we've been doing this. We've been at Lakin since 2015. We were at Lakin twice a month for a year, and finally opened up and started going to the men's prison. So we're now at St. Mary's Correctional, Salem Correctional, Prunytown Correctional, Huttonsville Correctional, and Lakin Correctional. So that's 5 in West Virginia. And then we go to Allen Oakwood, which are actually 2 different facilities, but they're together. In Ohio, up by Lima, and Chillicothe, which also includes Death Row. Warren Correctional, we start this month. And Southern Ohio Correctional, we go on an on-call as needed basis as they are on lockdown 23 hours a day. That's their maximum administrative seg facility. So we need help. We absolutely need help. There is, no matter where you live in the country at all, you can be an important part of Appalachian Pagan Ministry. Our ministry is run entirely by volunteers just like you, who share their time, knowledge, and experience and expertise to make a tangible difference in the lives of other pagans. Although we're based in West Virginia, many of our volunteers live out of state, yet still make up an integral part of the services we offer. We have a number of exciting projects in the works, so regardless of your level of experience and desired level of involvement, there are a number of ways that you can help out right now. Donate. At this time, we are currently, like I said, in 5 prisons in West Virginia and 5 in Ohio every month, teaching courses, providing spiritual counseling, and leading rituals. This is an area where the help is needed the most in order to provide study materials to inmates and cover travel expenses, gas to and from the prisons, as well as the cost of printing study materials and mailing letters and materials to inmates in between our in-person visits. Aside from the prisons that we see on site, we also handle and deal with numerous pagan, heathen kindreds and other pagans around the nation by mail and correspondence. Donating financially is a huge help right now, and it doesn't matter if it's $10, $25, $50, anything over $250 will get a receipt for tax purposes. I wish you'd done it before the end of the year, so at least this time you'll get it for next year's taxes. You can donate study materials. Pagan inmates have very limited access to any books or study materials. While each prison has a library, books pertaining to pagan religions are almost non-existent unless donated by organizations like us and individuals like you. We need books on Asatru, Druidry, general paganism, in addition to books on Wicca. It can be on any topic, Buddhism, I don't care what it is. If you have it and you want to donate it, please message me. If you want to donate printed study materials, even printing paper, please contact me. You can contact us through the website, or you can contact directly by email at appalachianpaganministry@gmail.com. You can teach. In addition to providing in-person classes as part of our prison visits, we also offer correspondence courses that inmates are able to complete independently, and they either mail their coursework to us or hand it in to us during one of their visits, or in the case of Ohio now, they can actually email it to us through JPay. That coursework is then emailed to whomever is teaching the course, allowing for the volunteers to teach and provide personalized feedback to inmates regardless of where that volunteer lives, and then it's emailed or mailed back to the inmates. Everything kind of comes through the ministry's P.O. box or email, which makes it faster sometimes slower, but it also ensures the safety and security of the volunteers involved. If you live in West Virginia and you want to come into the prisons, absolutely let me know. I will be more than happy to send you a volunteer packet to fill out. I have them for Ohio and I have them for West Virginia as well. There's a lot of paper to fill out, and then it takes like 6 to 8 weeks because we're talking a state government system here. It takes a while to get processed through, and then you have to go through volunteer orientation. Each prison is done separately. If you live near one of the prisons that we do service and would like to be a part of this and go inside, I welcome that. Just please understand that this is a commitment that you need to make, that's a monthly time commitment. And not only is it monthly commitment going in that you're able to do this every month, it's also the times that you're not in there, being able to work with a program or work with the paper you need to do and follow through. This is a time-consuming volunteer job, but we welcome you. Please, we desperately need the help. There's 2 of us, and now my friend David, who helps drive us, going in these facilities, and we can't, it's growing. We have, the word is spreading through both state systems, and they want us at all these different facilities, and we can only be so many places at once, physically and financially. If you're a minister and live in West Virginia or Ohio, we'd love to talk with you. We are frequently being asked to officiate important rites of passages such as weddings and hand fastings, naming ceremonies and baptisms, as well as death rites and funeral services. We'd be glad to have you do that. Again, if you have a correspondence course you would like to do, absolutely. If you have an idea you want to pitch to me, please email it to me. Let's discuss it. It can be in any topic that you feel comfortable in, that you think can be adapted to a correspondence kind of course. All work done that benefits the inmates we serve directly benefits the greater Pagan community. This is because not only are we the only Pagan ministry approved by the West Virginia prison system, but currently we are on track, and I say this not lightly, we are on track to being able to serve inmates on site in every prison in West Virginia. And Ohio is moving pretty rapidly. There are 15 prisons in West Virginia, and I'm not even sure yet how many are in Ohio, because that was not something I had originally counted on. So we need bodies, we need volunteers, we need funds, we need material. We desperately need your help, and it can only go to benefit the greater community, because these folks are coming out regardless if we help them or not. They're coming out, and I think we would rather have them come out better than they went in, which is exactly what they would like, and we can help them do that. And I really appreciate your time. Please go to the website www.appalachianpaganministry.com and see